Call to order. This time I'm going to ask Mr. McDaniel to lead us in our invocation.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the opportunity to come and conduct the business of Cherokee County. And Lord, we are so thankful for the wonderful employees we have throughout the county and the jobs that they do each and every day. Lord, I pray that you just keep your hand upon those that are sick, that have the coronavirus. Lord, just comfort them at their time of need. With our military, our police, and just keep them safe every day. In Christ's name I pray.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. At this time, I'd like to say that a lot of you know I've been out since April 5th. I had a bad accident. This is the first meeting back. I appreciate every one of you that's kept me in your prayers and thoughts. It really meant a lot to me. Glad to be back here with you guys. Next, we'll have roll call.
Mike Folks. Here. Tracy McDaniel. Here. Tim Spencer.
Here.
Clay Little. Here. Lyman Dawkins. Here. David Smith.
Here. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Heard this motion in a second. Any further discussion on the agenda? Not all in favor, please indicate by show of hands. Next, I need approval of the minutes of public hearing and regular meeting of 7/20/2020.
So moved.
Second.
Heard this motion in a second. Any further discussion about the minutes? If not, all in favor, please indicate by show of hands. Next, I need approval of the claims for Cherokee County in the amount of $491,366.65.
So moved. Second.
Heard this motion in a second. Any further discussion on the claims? If not, all in favor, please indicate by show of hands. Next, we have employee recognition. It's Roads and Bridges Department employee Ronnie Owens.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Ronnie, if you will come up here for a second. On, I think it was July the 21st at about 4:22 in the afternoon, after Roads and Bridges had closed and our solid waste department had closed, an electrical fire of some sort started in one of our trash trucks. A passerby noticed the smoke and called 911. Well, Ronnie was already, I think he was going to check on our bush hog guys, and he was actually on Highway 11, headed to check on them, and he heard the call go out over the scanner. And he did a U-turn and actually got back to the shop before the fire department had even had a chance to get there. And because of Ronnie's actions and going and grabbing fire extinguishers off the back of some of our other trucks, he saved us a significant amount of money because he knocked that fire off and kept it off the trucks to the sides. So I wanted to bring him in tonight, and I know council wanted to thank him, and got a small token of y'all's appreciation. Now, if you want to, do you want me to have him come up and do a picture?
Yes.
So Ronnie, we're going to ask you to go up and around there, and we'll get a picture. And but I just wanted to bring him in and thank him, and I know you guys do also.
Yeah, but I mean.
All right. You did a lot. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Next, we have a petitioner, Miss Patty Bloomer, with the Gaffney Little Theater. If you would please come forward to that podium right there and speak, ma'am.
Have to shake off the wet stuff here.
Thank you, County Council, for allowing me this time to address you. I am Patty Bloomer. I serve as the president of the Gaffney Little Theater. The Gaffney Little Theater is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that's been a part of the community for over 53 years. We are an educational and literary organization that strives to inspire and perpetuate interest in the fine arts, including music, visual arts, dance, literature, and community theater for all residents and visitors of Cherokee County. We aspire to guide and educate the community through trained experience, supervision, and direction in all areas of theater to cultivate dramatic talents, stage presence, articulation, and self-confidence through all forms of theatrical productions. The arts enhance the quality of community life. Studies show that the arts stimulate a person's creativity and thought process. Participants learn to communicate effectively, connecting them with others intellectually and emotionally. They acquire skills such as poise, focus, and ways of overcoming anxieties. It creates a sense of pride in accomplishment and develops community spirit as cast and crew work together toward a common goal. The arts offer insight and perspective into our current world, our past world, and our future world. Support of the arts does not only enhance the quality of community life, but also invests in our economic well-being. The biggest debate over the economic impact of the arts is not whether there is one, but rather how much of one. Tourism. As we become stronger, more visitors come to our area to take part. These visitors eat at our restaurants, shop at our stores, and stay at our hotels. Residents. The arts attracts more residents to the area, which in turn attracts more businesses. Cities around our state are competing for new businesses as well as young professionals. Being a community that offers an abundance of arts and cultural opportunity would go a long way in putting us at the top of the list. As the arts flourish, so will creativity and innovation, which is the fuel that drives the economy. In 1975, Gaffney Little Theater purchased the building at 131 East Robinson Street. Since then, we have acquired the 2 lots adjacent to us. Through the years, our building has served us well, but it is now in a state of deterioration. We have pursued many possibilities through the years, such as working with the city on the Performing Arts Center, partnering with the Recreation District and you all for the Grenard Building, as well as looking at so many buildings to purchase only to be left without a viable solution. We need your help to move forward. Now is the time for us to explore our options at 131 East Robinson Street, starting by having the appropriate professionals come in and inspect our building, as well as help us come up with a plan to better use our existing location to provide productions and educational opportunities. Will you help us by supplying the appropriate professionals to inspect and determine if our building is a viable option? This is the step 1 to revitalizing Gaffney Little Theater, which in return is an investment in our community's well-being. Thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Questions for Ms. Bloomer?
Well, y'all, I asked Ms. Bloomer to come here tonight. I thought it's, as y'all all know, when the city took their building that was given to them and more or less promised them the Performing Arts Center, and that never came to be. And then we all tried to work out a deal with Grenard to try to give them a place to be. They're just trying to identify themselves on what they need to do. I don't know how much it will cost. I've asked Mr. Bratton to look at it a little bit, and I think I'm going to bring forth the motion that we allocate up to $5,000 to get DP3 or some professional to go into that building and actually determine whether or not it's worth savings, because they need to know where they're at as far as putting more money into that building to stay afloat or to keep performing. I think it's in the greatest location it could possibly be, adjacent to the amphitheater back there, and they could maybe utilize that. They have 2 locations. And maybe it needs to be torn down. I really don't know, and nobody else does, and no one on their board is of that profession. So they can't get it done in a reasonable manner. And y'all know where I'm at with the Gaffney Little Theater, and I think all of y'all are the same way. I think y'all all want to support the arts. We do a lot for the rec department. We do a lot for the schools with resource officers. We try to help everybody we can help. And I don't really think, I know 5,000 is a lot. Is that reasonable to assume, Mr. Bratton?
Mr. Little, I would think that we could certainly get some sort of evaluation done. I don't know that it's going to be a complete structural evaluation, but I believe we can get them to go in and take a look and do some exploratory work and see what they can give us. I think we can get some other things such as roofing assessments done probably for nothing. So I think that's certainly a viable option. Yes, sir.
Well, that's where I'm at, y'all. So I hope I get a second, and I hope we get to vote on it. So I'm going to put it in the form of a motion, unless there's any other discussion. I know I led this cause, and I know y'all know in your heart, you have to give every kid every option you can in this community. And I think, like Mr. Smith said, we're a very progressive council, and we try to do the right things, and we try to help every cause that we can. Now, we can't do it all the time, and I know that, and we're limited. And I just, I know it's near and dear to my heart to try to do something for them. And so, therefore, I'm going to put it in the form of a motion that we allocate up to $5,000 and contact a professional as like DP3 to assess and determine if this building is structurally sound enough for them to pursue repairing it and proceeding forward.
You've heard this motion, are there a second? Heard this motion, second. Any further discussion from Ms. Bloomer?
Yes, sir. It's been some years back since I've been to Gaffney. What's the seating capacity of the theater now?
At this time, our seating capacity is 85. We would like to have a much larger area to be able to host more larger audiences. We have, this past year, we used the high school in order to do our big production of Frozen Junior. That was a really big production, but it's very difficult when you have to go into another facility.
Mr. Bratton, I know the limitations that we had with the Grenard site and the auditorium and stuff that's there, and the recent renovation several years back. Why the county wasn't necessarily a great option for the county, but what limits the Gaffney Little Theater from negotiating with the school district on the utilization of Grenard?
Well, I know that it is under contract. I believe I saw in the paper that they had to have it under contract to sell it to someone. I'm not sure who that is.
I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you, Ms. Bloomer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I missed the adoption of the agenda. Can I be added to the agenda?
I'll put you under old and new another bit. This time we'll hear from our attorney, Joe Mathis.
No report, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you back in person.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis. I appreciate you. Next, we have some action items. First would be a bid 2021-01 gravel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our last meeting, we opened bids, and this particular bid we had 2 bidders, Vulcan and Sloan. And there's several items on that bid document, and when I took those back and analyzed them, Sloan is the obvious choice as far as price goes. That's currently who has our bid And so my recommendation is that you award the contract for manufactured sand, SCDOT crush and run, Class A riprap, Class B riprap, number 57 stone, and number 3-inch surge stone to Sloan.
Heard this request, are there a motion? Heard this motion in a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, please indicate. Thank you, Mr. Bratton. Next, we have the charter school request for SRO.
Yes, sir. I received an email this past Thursday from Sheriff Mueller, and he had been contacted by Tony Helton, who came before you all back earlier this year regarding the charter school, and they have requested that the county provide them with an SRO, and they would pay for 9 months of the salary for that SRO, and the county would pay for the remaining 3 months, which is the same situation we have with the Cherokee County School District. I want you to keep in mind that this is a public school. It is just a charter school. It is funded by tax dollars, just like our school district is. The sheriff has stated that he has the money in his current budget to take care of outfitting the officer with bulletproof vest, gun, all the uniform type things, and also he will have a vehicle that he can put this person in. So what the request is for you all to allocate or to give him one position that would be funded 3/4 by the charter school, and 1/4 of that position would be funded by our general fund budget.
Heard this request, already a motion.
Okay.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, please indicate by show of hands. Next, we'll hear from Administrator Steve Bratton.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want a couple of things wanted to bring to your attention and introductions I wanted to do tonight. To my right, to your left, is Tim Hartman. I know you all know Tim. Tim's been with the county for almost 25 years now, and Tim has accepted the position to come on board as our Assistant County Administrator. As you all know, we have a lot going on, and Tim's going to be helping us with Public Works as far as some direct reports to him, but also our long-range plan. He sat in on a meeting with me today, even though he's not even officially here yet. He was in the building, and I grabbed him and said, come in here for a minute. Tim starts next week officially, but I asked him to be here tonight, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that Tim is on board, and we're excited to have him.
Congratulations, Tim. We look forward to working with you.
Also, I asked Ryan Thomas to be here tonight. We've gotten word I guess it was last Friday, that the governor had appointed Ryan to fill the unexpired term for the Cherokee County Treasurer. Ryan won the Republican primary, as you all know, and there was no Democratic contender, so he is running unopposed in November. So the governor appointed him to fill the role of treasurer effective, I guess, August 25th. He's already taken his oath, already gone through that process, but he will be starting full-time on the 25th, and then the election will happen in November, and he will fill the remaining term, which is until June of 23. So I wanted to ask Ryan to be here tonight, just so that you all could, if you haven't met him, just so you could see Ryan and know who he was.
Congratulations, Ryan. We look forward to working with you too, sir.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be back today.
Thank you, sir.
Next item I have is we received notification from SCDOT of the closure of Old Stage Road. Old Stage is up off of 221, but wanted you all to be aware they're anticipating it to be closed through November the 30th. That's a DOT road, and it's got to do with replacing a bridge. So wanted you all to be aware, and they will be closed only for local traffic, and there's a detour that's been laid out that goes down 221. Final thing I've got is a bridge situation for a county road, and that's Mike's Creek Road Bridge. That is off of Oak Ridge, and it connects Oak Ridge and Ellis Ferry. Due to some heavy rains that we've had, that bridge has really deteriorated, and we're evaluating our possibilities now on that, and we'll probably be coming to the Public Works Committee at some point, or we may be. We're looking to see if we can possibly put a large pipe in, or if we're going to have to replace that bridge, but the abutments and everything would have to be replaced, so it'd be quite an undertaking, but we're studying that possibility right now, but I just wanted to let you all know.
Road closed now?
The road is closed, yes, sir, but only to local traffic. There's no houses near that bridge. There's a couple of pasture gates, but you can still access it from either Oak Ridge or from Ellis Ferry. So I wanted you all to be aware of that in case you caught wind of that one. So that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on that, I know we're going into this long-range planning, and several years ago, several of the council members remember that we discussed replacing bridges on county roads throughout the county. I think we were trying to do one a year or whatever the plan was then. We need to get back to those talks. These bridges closing down and aging like that really interrupts your emergency services. Your fire department's trying to get to different locations, and you close off a road, you close off a large section of the county that they can access through those bridges. So, as part of this long-range plan or something going into this next budget year, feel like we need to get back to those talks about replacing these aging bridges, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Foltz.
Now, can I ask something, Mr. Chairman? What's the span of that bridge? Do you know what the span is now? Is
I
it a
do not know that,
wooden
Mr.
steel
McDaniel.
beam and wood plank bridge
I
or
do
what?
not know that. Ronnie, you here? Do you have any idea? Do you know the span of it?
How long is that, Ron?
I spoke with Wesley Crowe, our assistant supervisor on roads and bridges, right before I came down for the meeting, and they're still evaluating it. They're hoping they can put a pipe in, but either if we have to replace it, it would certainly have to be a totally new bridge, probably concrete decking like we've done
Abutments
in
and
some
all.
other abutments and everything. It's deteriorated significantly and has a lot of washing that occurred.
Any further discussion about the bridges? Not any appointments?
I have two.
Go right ahead, Mr. Smith.
Buffalo Fire District like to reappoint Thomas Eddie Dover.
Second.
Heard this motion, you've heard this second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of this appointee, please identify by show of hands. Okay, will you second one, Mr. Smith?
That is also the Buffalo Fire District, and that is reappoint Larry Jones.
Heard this motion, are there a second? You've heard this motion, is second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of this appointee, please identify by show of hands. Any more appointments? I have one myself. Cherokee County Development Board to be reappointing Ms. Anna Moss.
Second.
On the motion. You've heard this motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of appointing this appointee, please identify by show of hands. Any other appointments? Not, I have another. A Grass Pond Fire District, this would be a reappointing of Carlton Bridges. Heard this motion and second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of appointing Carlton Bridges, please identify by show of hands. That's all I have. Anybody else have any appointments? Next, Mr. Mathis.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Administrator has requested an executive session pursuant to 3470A3 for a personnel matter.
You've heard this request. Are there a motion?
Second.
Heard this motion in a second. All in favor going into executive session, please identify by show of hands. We'll take a short recess. Thank you, Mr. Call to order. Mr. Mathis.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. A motion will be in order to return to regular session from executive session. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect no action was taken in executive session.
Heard this request to return to regular session. Are there a motion?
Second.
Heard this motion second. All in favor, return to regular session, please identify by show of hands. Thank you, Mr. Mathis.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have new old other business, and we're gonna listen to Mr. Hyman Dawkins at this time.
Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Guys, we know this year has been a year like no other. And COVID-19 has played a major role in this. And I think it's safe to say that everyone wants COVID-19 to go away so we can get some type of normalcy back in our lives. But the major question that I would like to ask, are we doing what it takes for this county to make that a reality? And with that being said, you know, on July the 29th, we know Governor McMaster requested that all South Carolinians wear face coverings when it's appropriate. And he also asked that all local government agencies adopt some type of face covering ordinance. And I think that announcement was very significant because our county numbers are steady rising, and pretty much we've been standing on the sideline, you know what I mean, not doing much. And every health organization from CDC to South Carolina DHEC, they all recommend some type of face covering. Now, the data clearly shows that something needs to be done because on April the 30th, we had 17 cases. And in the month of May, we had 26 cases. June, we had 114 cases. July, 387 cases. Total in those 3 months is 527 cases. You know, today we stand at 638 cases. From April to the end of July, that's a 3,652% increase. That's a lot. And we're in the middle of a health crisis. I believe as leaders, we can't stand on the sideline and say nothing or do nothing. You know, it's a tough decision. I know a lot of people stand on one side, a lot of people stand on the other side, but I think we need to do what's best for the safety of all our citizens here in Cherokee County. So I personally would like to do, I would be doing my constituents a disservice if I didn't speak up, because my district, I know alone, is some of the most vulnerable people from dying from COVID-19. So I would like to see this council enact some type of emergency ordinance, face coverings for any business. Every local business have some type of face covering ordinance. And with that being said, I would like to put that in the form of a motion, and so we can have some type of discussion or something about this.
Heard this motion. Are there a second?
I'll second.
Heard this motion is second. Any further discussion? Only thing I would like to say is you putting this in a form of a motion as far as a request or requirement? Because the governor requested it.
He didn't require, he requested that the local agencies do something.
Are you requesting it or are you requiring it?
Requirement. I'm putting in the motion of a requirement in local businesses that we have some type of face covering. I just left Hilton Head this past weekend down at the conference. They have a requirement, and it went well. I know a lot of people say, well, we can't enforce it, but I believe, especially in a health crisis, enforcement shouldn't be the end-all, be-all. It should be the safety that we should be looking at, because I believe if we did something, people would abide by that. And because, like I said, if we can't keep doing the same old thing and thinking things are going to be different, because these cases are steady rising. And if they keep rising, schools are going to end up closing again. It's going to put us in a major setback as an economy and everything. So I think we need to do something to try to mitigate these numbers. Because right now, our citizens, the numbers show they're not doing the recommendations. I mean, we've asked them to wear a face mask. We asked them to social distance. And so that's why I was making that request.
So you're asking for all retail stores?
Yes, retail stores, grocery stores, yeah.
Well, county, the incorporated area contains most of that. I know as well as y'all do that they didn't take a vote.
Understand that?
And I know you represent, like I do, the vast majority of the city. I'm with you, but the only thing that I'm worried about is, are we infringing on their right to do this? We're putting Blacksburg, I haven't heard a word out of Blacksburg. Heard anything with regards to their city's position?
As far as I've heard with Blacksburg.
They don't want to do it?
They haven't discussed.
See, if we impose, we're popping it on them too. I hear what you're saying. It's a double-edged sword because you want to protect the people, but there's the other side. You feel like you're infringing on their rights. So I don't know, Lyman.
I just,
The state superintendent come out and said that all students would wear a mask this year going back to school.
In the classroom too?
That's to come to the school. I forget that, I don't know if it's 3 and up, age 3 and up, I mean,
second grade.
Second grade up. I know Greenville County had Greenville County Schools had passed it before she come in to say it, but, anyway, that was one of my concerns was sending my children back to school, was there was no mask requirement. Because I have a wife who works in the health profession and, sees, death from COVID. You know, back in April, well, it's bad in New York, it's bad in Los Angeles, you know, well, we see that, and then all of a sudden, I venture to say there's not a soul up here that don't know someone that's died from it now. And that's when it hits home. That's when it's reality. You know, infringing on rights or not, no one wants to do that. But at the same time, you know, the school system, the state school system, has said you will wear a mask to come back to school. Now, they won't have to have them on all the time. You know, when you can social distance, you don't have to wear your mask. But it is a requirement. And she set that precedent. I agree with Lyman. Whether the precedent's set or not, we're not going to get rid of it if we're waiting on a vaccination. And, you know, the Big Ten today said, we're not playing football, boys. Nebraska and Iowa, they want to play, but the Big Ten said, no, we're not going to play ball. And when that happens, it's real. You know, I know there's some people out there that say, it's a hoax, it's not real. It's real. It's out there. And if the school system has to wear them, and then we as a county say, you can if you want to, you don't have to, whatever, it's going to spread. It's going to get worse. It's going to happen. It's already happened in other places that have already went back to school. So that's just something to think about.
I agree wholeheartedly with you. And I know this, this is not really the spur of the moment, Lyman, by any means. I mean, it's been tossed around. But to be fair to everybody on this council, we have, and I hate to even sound like I'm postponing, but I think if you give us the opportunity to speak to our constituents with regards to this and come back the following meeting and do a go, no go vote, whatever, I think that would give us a little bit more fair of chance to understand. I mean, we understand what we think at this table by all means, but we all represent a crowd, and to only be fair to them, because we're not having a public hearing, we're not doing any of that. If we drop an ordinance, emergency ordinance right now, I don't know if that's fair to the people that we represent, because we haven't even spoken of this before today. And I know the city has, and I know they've been, I don't know if bombarded is the word, but they have had interaction with their constituents as to whether or not they want their representative to vote that way. And I know our own personal, I think we all know how we all personally feel about masks. We're all wearing them here today. And we require it to come into this building. But to be fair to our constituents, I think at least give them a week, because I know Larry's going to print this story. And if we will get the phone calls, in regard. And I've had both conversations. I have people in my district that absolutely unequivocally want this mask to be worn. And I appreciate that. And then on the other hand, I have the ones that call and say, don't dare do that. I'm sure everyone at this table's had that same conversation with different people. And I think we just got to do, we got to make a vote. I don't have a problem with that, but I just would ask that we give a week to get this out to our constituents to let them tell us what they want. And that's who we represent.
Mr.
And
Little, if,
I'd like to go on record as saying, I understand fully what both of Lyman and both of you are saying. It's been, but whether the vote's held today or 2 weeks from now, I won't vote for mandatory mask wearing. There is a level of enforcement that we have to talk about. How's it going to be enforced? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You're going to have 911 calls about people being places not wearing masks, which is going to tie up your 911 line. I've not heard anything from the sheriff or the chief about how they're going to enforce it, even if they are going to consider to enforce it. And you already have stores making policies about it themselves. You're taking the choice from the store owners to make their own policies about people coming to their store, and you're taking the choice from the individual whether I want to shop there or not because they don't have a policy. I've been going in Lowe's 2 times a week here lately. They don't necessarily have a mandatory policy, so I don't have to shop at Lowe's if I choose not to, but that's still my freedom of choice not to do that. But I will not vote for a mandatory mask wearing in this county because you're going to have to identify what you're establishing as a business. Are you including churches? Are you including just fast fairs, or no longer fast fairs, but pantries and walk-in stores? What are you including in that definition of businesses? But I will not make it mandatory. I won't vote that way.
I don't think I could either, and it ain't got a thing to do with safety, because you see me with one on. And I wished everybody would wear them voluntarily, because I had a gentleman to call me, you know, when we did the text thing the other day, and I said I couldn't vote for this because this guy had COPD. He said, I can't wear it. Chokes me to death. Well, how you gonna mandatory something that guy's already got a breathing problem, but then he can't breathe with this, and then we send the sheriff's department to give him a fine? I mean,
well, you
you
wouldn't
gotta
in
see
you wouldn't
that
in health
too.
situations. I mean, you don't have to wear a mask to school if you have a health situation. If you have a child that can't put the mask on themselves, you have some children that can't, so you wouldn't know if they were choking or if they were having trouble breathing. So it wouldn't be like a dictatorship out there where, you know, you don't have your mask on, you're going to jail. I just think if we were to do something on that level, it's going to make more people think, and more people are going to wear them.
well, I think it's fine to request them, just like the governor did. We can request Cherokee County to have them. But when you want to pass an ordinance to require, then how you gonna know if Tim's still in the sheriff's department, if he goes down the street and somebody 911 calls and said, well, John ain't got no mask on, well, John's got COPD, how's he gonna? No. And I'm like Mike, I just feel like we're opening a can of worms here, guys, although I know it's necessary. But y'all tell me what you wanna do, the R motion and stuff?
I know that's the biggest issue, and
We can get up here and preach all day long that we believe this, but people only respect what's the law, and most people, and if it's the law, then and we say an ordinance that becomes the law, then I don't know how you enforce that, because I'm gonna tell you, was what the struggle with the city was. I thought they were gonna pass it Friday. I don't know what happened with regards to all that, but none of that happened because of the issue with the court. Started saying, you know, you couldn't put it in magistrate's court, you'd have to put it in this court, and back and forth the county's court would do it. And I was sitting there going, oh, the enforcement, I just because us 7 say wear your mask, I don't think the people wear their mask. I mean, let's be frank, y'all. But if we say ordinance, wear the mask, then it becomes how you go enforce it. And that's my biggest issue.
But I've been to Greenville, I've been to, like I said, I was in Hilton Head. I haven't, and I did research upon this before even bringing this to council. I haven't read not one article where enforcement was a more bigger issue than the safety and this is a health crisis we're dealing with. I think it's just a matter of how you write up the orders. Hilton Head says that they put a lot of the onus on the business to say they come in without the mask, they tell them they're not going to serve them. And if that business has 3 or more incidents when people come in, they get that business a fine. And so I think it's all about how we write that up as well. And
So you're not talking individual fines, you're talking business fines.
And just like the seatbelts, you can't enforce every single person that doesn't wear a seatbelt or every single person that speeds. But we just say, well, just let people not wear seatbelts because we can't enforce it. It's the safety. Safety comes before people with the nuisance or I don't want to wear it or whatever. This is a safety health crisis that we're in the middle of. These numbers are steady going up. And like I said, as leaders, sometimes you got to make a decision that's in best for the people when they might not feel like it's in best for themselves because they're looking at it from an individual standpoint. When you're in leadership, you're looking at it from a whole. And some people, they don't see nothing bigger than themselves in the mirror and say, I can't breathe or whatever, and that's fine. I'm pretty sure if they go to Lowe's or whatever and they say, well, I have a health condition, they say whatever, they're not going to call the cops on them. But if you got 25 people walking around Lowe's, now that's an issue. Now, Mr. Bratton, did you see any issues or people walking around complaining about wearing their masks?
In this building?
No, in Hilton Head.
Oh, no, sir. I didn't.
Or in this building.
I haven't heard it in either place, no, sir.
I haven't read not one article or place where people said enforcement is a problem. Like Mr. Councilman Smith said, if you make this law, people abide by the law more often than they don't. And I believe the citizens here of Cherokee County will too. And so whether you feel like Mr. Folks, I understand that and I respect that. But I just feel for the betterment of our county and our state, we got to start looking at something because people are not doing it. We can request it all day long. And the governor has been requesting it. But look at these numbers. Are they doing it? When the numbers were low, it was no problem. Then we came out with that article, we got an F for social distancing and everything else. And so, like I said, that's why I think we got to do something. And I don't want to sit back and wait on the city to do it because they could keep putting it off and they might say, well, no, we're not going to do it. And here we are 2 months down the road and nothing has happened. And so that's where I'm coming from.
Gentlemen, if I may, what I don't have available tonight or haven't put together is an ordinance for you all to vote on anyway. So if you all would like, and this will give you all time to talk to your constituents and so forth, if you all would like to instruct me to go back and research what other counties, there's some counties that have done ordinances, but if you all would like for me to go back and research that and then bring that back to you all at the next meeting, because we don't have an ordinance prepared for you to vote on tonight anyway. So
Yeah,
if
do
you
that.
all
I
would,
was
if
in
you all would like for
Evanston.
me to do that, I can do that. I just want to throw that out there for you all for your consideration.
In Edisto 2 weeks ago, and it's the same situation. It was just a mask requirement to go in any business, any restaurant. Actually, they weren't serving sit down any. I mean, they had all the doors, they were open, but there was a desk or there was a chair in front of the door, and that's where you paid. But again, the ordinance was there, and I'm not sure how they did it, but it was a requirement to have a mask on there.
I think in most places that I've read, it's been, the requirement is on the busin's.
On the business, yeah.
It's on the
most
business,
of it.
but
Are they forced to have masks readily available if the
most,
potential customer comes in without?
some do, I shouldn't say most, some do, some don't. Now, the restaurants that I went in, when I've been in places that had a mask ordinance, the restaurants do not
Well,
necessarily have it.
those are needed questions, because you know as well as I do, when we required them in here, what was the first thing you told me?
I couldn't keep up.
Exactly.
But now we're not having a problem, Mr. Little. I mean, we don't
Because
hand
we
them out
say,
now.
bring them in.
That's right. So
I know.
people provide their own.
Yeah, I know.
The standard that we set. If we say bring them, I think they'll bring them. If we say wear them, requirement, I believe just wholeheartedly in this county that they'll wear it.
Are you talking about a 60-day ordinance? What's your,
If you do an emergency, that's the duration, 60 days.
an emergency would consist of how many votes?
2/3 majority. It'd be a super majority. I believe it'd be a 2/3, correct, Mr. Mathis?
That would be 4-2. Okay.
So what's the pleasure of council? We're gonna table this until you go back and do research on another ordinance from another county, or?
I can craft a document.
You've got to have something to vote on.
Yes, I
You-
mean,
you
we don't have
You
any.
don't have the terms to vote on right now. You meet next Monday. If you want it to be before you for consideration, it could be on your agenda, and you could have it before you next Monday to vote on.
And we're talking 3 readings and a public hearing?
Well, if it's an emergency ordinance, it'd be like the emergency ordinance you did earlier this spring. If it's an emergency, you take one reading.
One reading. That requires a supermajority to approve.
You wanna do a public hearing on this?
That's,
I think you have to be fair to everybody involved. I mean, if we're gonna put the burden, what I'm understanding, towards the businesses enforcing it, as opposed to law enforcement. No, that's, I mean, I think we gotta hear from the businesses, and I understand both sides, I really do. It's just,
How much does these things cost? I mean, I'm sure they're not much, are they?
$1 a piece.
I mean, I don't want nobody, we already discussing some businesses now hurting. I don't want nobody letting this drive them out of business. Which I don't think $1 a piece is gonna drive you out, but if somebody gonna come to my business and Lord, please, I've been blessed. But what I'm saying is, if somebody gonna come to my business, and if I say you gotta have a mask on, they gonna turn around and go somewhere else?
well, that other place they go to would have to have it
Better.
also.
That's right.
I
If
mean-
somebody's enforcing it,
Well, I mean, yes, sir, I mean, that's the thought process,
I
but
wouldn't want somebody's business.
for the most part, what I've seen is these businesses are policing themselves.
What's the state mandated at this point?
The
Who
governor- what
who
the
is
governor-
required to wear masks?
What the requirements to wear a mask that the state has put out is in state-owned buildings, and the Supreme Court, State Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice came out and said in all courthouses. That includes magistrates, the General Sessions Court, our probate court, everything, anybody within a court system has to have a mask to come in the building. And you have to check their temperature, which we were already doing.
Which
So
if
we
you
were-
look, if you look at it in a larger picture, it's the only they legally can govern. They can't govern private businesses, and that's why they're not wanting to approach it that way. They can only govern federal buildings or state buildings.
No.
That's what they legally can govern.
Some governors
Like, we can
have done
govern
that.
this building.
Some
Now-
governors have done it.
Now, the difference is the Chief Justice has regulated the buildings that house court facilities. That's what he has jurisdiction over. As far as any other buildings, that would be in the confines of the authority of the governor.
What the governor's recommendation, Tim, Mr. Chairman, was, the governor's what he said was he requests that local governments pass ordinances requiring it. So the governor asked that local governments require it. He didn't want to require it, but he asked that local governments require it. So that was actually what he stated.
All right, what's the pleasure of council? You
Now,
gonna table this and wait on the ordinance that you gonna get drawn
I
up?
will craft something and bring to you a document
But they need to
and
amend
with
the motion
multiple
in a second.
options within it.
and
Motion to get more information from Mr. Brett.
so, how many counties have done this, Mr. Bratt?
I don't know that off the top of my head, Mr.
You're gonna have all
Little.
these
I'll
numbers.
have that for you, yes, sir. There's discussions ongoing all the time with all the county administrators, but it's a growing number.
Contact the city and see where they stand, because I thought it was Friday.
I thought it was too.
There.
I don't know what happened there.
You remember? What happened Friday? Didn't they say that they were gonna have an emergency meeting Friday to discuss whether or not they were gonna require masks on business?
Information, James Taylor's been out of town,
They said he would Zoom in.
whatever. But they're gonna have an election on Tuesday, and the mayor was saying, let's just wait until, because there could be a new council. And there's a possibility there could be a new mayor.
Okay.
So he didn't want to like handcuff the new people, I guess. I don't know. But I have his number if you want to call. Okay.
You have Mr. Dawkins' receipt. Okay, any new, old, or other business? Thank you, Mr. Dawkins. If not, we stand adjourned.
So it's an emergency except for an election.